Critics tonight slamming Israel after the deaths of 5 Al Jazeera journalists who the network says were killed in a targeted airstrike in Gaza in just the last 24 hours. The IDF says one of the people killed was a Hamas leader posing as a journalist. It's all happening as even a group of more than 600 retired members of the Israeli military are now calling for an immediate end to the war in Gaza. But the Israeli prime minister appears defiant in the face of outrage over his plan to take control of Gaza City and hand it over to Arab forces. Now, it is very unlikely that Arab states would go for this. But the prime minister is suggesting is reigniting some criticism inside the enclave that Arab nations are not doing enough to help Palestinians now. Danielle Hamamjian has more in tonight's breakdown. And we should warn you, some of what you're about to see is disturbing.
Why don't Arab countries attack Israel? Why do leaders in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and others stay quiet while their streets demand action? Why don't Muslim leaders step in when most of their people want them to stand with Palestinians?
He says that while the Arab public is strongly pro-Palestinian, Arab leaders, heavily reliant on American aid and security, are wary of antagonizing the U.S. and its close ally, Israel.
This explains the subservience of Arab governments to American foreign policy. There is a big divide now.
A history of pain and strategy. To begin, we must remember that the Arab-Israeli conflict is not new. It goes back to the late 19th century, when Zionism and Arab nationalism began to rise. By the 1920s, these movements clashed inside British-ruled Palestine. On one side, Zionists saw the land as the ancestral home of Jewish people. On the other side, Arabs saw it as historically theirs, both as Palestinians and as part of the wider Muslim world. This tension exploded into violence in 1920 and later into the Palestinian Civil War of 1947 to 1948, after the UN tried to divide the land into 2 states. When Israel declared independence in May 1948, Arab League countries invaded to support the Palestinians. That became the first Arab-Israeli war. More wars followed in 1956, 1967, and 1973. The Six-Day War of 1967 even gave Israel control of the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. Arab countries learned hard lessons from these wars because Israel often used the battles to portray its neighbors as aggressors and to expand its control. So here is the first key reason. Arab leaders today fear that if they attack, Israel will once again turn the world against them, just like in the past. Israel has a history of provoking its neighbors, waiting for them to respond, and then using that as a green light to unleash even more hostilities. But history is just the beginning. Let's now move to what really drives leaders today: economics, the power of money and growth. When we look at Arab countries, many of them are trying to build strong economies for their people. For example, Saudi Arabia is working on its Vision 2030, a massive plan to transform the kingdom into a global economic powerhouse. Microstates like Qatar have shown how steady growth and international trade can give them influence far bigger than their size. If these countries openly attack Israel, they risk losing huge trade opportunities. Many Islamic countries actually see long-term benefits in recognizing Israel as a player in the Middle East. By trading with Israel and connecting with its technology sector, they can pull millions of their citizens out of poverty. Leaders know that if they give up these chances, they may lose support at home. After all, citizens want jobs, money, and a better life, and leaders rely on that support to stay in power. Another financial factor comes from outside the region. Some Arab states get massive amounts of money from Western countries, especially the United States. Egypt is one clear example. For decades, it has had a peace treaty with Israel, and in return, it has received billions of dollars in US aid. That money helps Egypt's leaders stay strong politically and keep their economy afloat. If Egypt suddenly attacked Israel, it would risk losing all that support, and the country's stability would collapse. So here comes another answer to the question. Many Arab leaders are choosing their own survival and the economic future of their nations over a direct fight with Israel. But money is not the only factor. The fear of being seen as enemies of the West also plays a huge role. Playing the long game. Arab leaders understand something very important. If they attack Israel, they don't just fight Israel, they also fight the West. Western countries like the United States, France, and others are desperate to keep Israel's image as a democratic, human rights-loving country. They use this excuse to keep supporting Israel. If Arab states attacked, the West would say, "See, Israel is surrounded by enemies, so of course we must back them." Arab leaders don't want to give Israel that advantage. Instead, they play the long game. They stay silent or limit their actions, waiting for the world itself to see Israel's human rights violations. And this strategy is working slowly. Reports of genocide in Gaza have reached international courts. Countries like Spain, Ireland, and Norway have recognized Palestine. Even the United States, Israel's biggest ally, has started criticizing Israeli actions. This is exactly what Arab leaders expected. Let Israel's actions destroy its own reputation. But while Arab leaders play this careful game, their people are angry. From Cairo to Amman, from Riyadh to Doha, ordinary Arabs see the suffering in Gaza and demand action. The risks of direct action. Arab countries once gave weapons, bases, and money to Palestinian groups, but this often backfired. In Jordan, the presence of the Palestinian Liberation Organization led to a civil war in 1970, known as Black September. The militants were expelled, but the conflict nearly toppled Jordan's monarchy. In Lebanon, Palestinian militants became a key factor in the civil war of the 1970s, which invited an Israeli invasion in 1982. Leaders remember these disasters, the human cost, and the future. Now, let's step back and look at the big picture. Since 1945, the Arab-Israeli conflict has caused around 92,000 deaths, with 74,000 being military and 18,000 civilian. More recently, Gaza has seen war after war. In 2008, around 1,391 Palestinians died. In 2012, 167 more. In 2014, over 2,251. And since October 7, 2023, the numbers are staggering. More than 61,000 Palestinians killed, most of them women and children. Meanwhile, about 2,000 Israelis have also died since 2023. The cost is not just in lives. A report by the Strategic Foresight Group estimated that from 1991 to 2010, the conflict cost the Middle East $12 trillion in lost opportunity. Israel lost almost $1 trillion in possible growth. Iraq lost $2.2 trillion, and Saudi Arabia lost $4.5 trillion. To put it simply, if there had been peace, the average Israeli could be earning over $44,000 instead of just $23,000 in 2010. The sad truth is, Arab leaders don't attack Israel because of history, because of money, because of fear of the West, because of survival, and because they believe time itself will reveal the truth. Conclusion. So, when we ask, why don't Arab countries attack Israel? The answer is layered. They fear repeating history. They want economic growth. They depend on Western support. They avoid giving Israel excuses. And above all, they are playing a very long game. But will this strategy work? Or will the anger of ordinary Arabs explode into something their leaders can no longer control? That's the question waiting to be answered. That's all for today. If you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.